In this video, we are going to continue writing y equals mx plus b, or a linear equation. But today, we are going to do that when our given information is from a table of ordered pairs like this. The steps are going to be pretty much identical to when you have two ordered pairs. So first, you have to find the rate of change. And remember, from quite a while ago, we defined rate of change as being the same as slope. And for your convenience, the slope formula is right there. So this is the slope formula. So the very first thing we're going to do is find the slope. After we find the slope, you're going to use that slope, and you're going to use 1 point from the table, so an ordered pair x comma y, to plug the equation, to plug in y, m, and x in the linear equation y equals mx plus b. And remember, this is the equation that we replace with bubbles, like that. After that's done, you'll have a y value here, you'll have the slope here, you'll have an x value here, and then the last number is going to be b. If these are all numbers, y, m, and x, then you'll be able to solve for b, which is exactly what the next step is, to solve for b, or the y-intercept. Now the very last step is to just rewrite the equation. Very important that you remember x and y in the final equation have to stay as variables or letters. M and b, however, get to be replaced with their respective numbers or values. Okay, so let's look at an example. In class we call this example 1. And I just want to point out that your ordered pairs here are 2, negative 4. Your ordered pairs are going sideways, so 2, negative 4. Another ordered pair is 4, 0. And then the last ordered pair would be 6, 4. Okay. So I'm going to pick two ordered pairs to find the slope. I'm going to pick 4, 0, and 6, 4. So I'll call this x1 and y1. I'm labeling my ordered pairs, x2 and y2. So now when I use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, I have a clear idea of what belongs in each spot. So we're going to now replace all of those variables with bubbles or parentheses. This bubble is in place of y2, and y2 is 4. This bubble is in place of y1, and y1 is 0. This bubble is in place of x2, and x2 is 6. And this last bubble is in place of x1, and x1 is 4. Now I'm ready to do the subtraction. On the top we have 4 minus 0, which is 4. And in the denominator we have 6 minus 4, which is 2. And 4 over 2 is 2. So we found that our slope was just 2. Now we're ready to solve the equation y equals mx plus b for b. Well, almost. We do have to plug in values for each y, m, and x, and we know that b is going to stay a letter because that's what we're trying to solve for. Before I can plug in for y, m, and x, I need a y value. Well, I have 3 y values, so you're going to have to pick one ordered pair and stick with it. I highly recommend that if there's an ordered pair with a 0, you use that ordered pair. So this is the ordered pair I'm using. The y value from that ordered pair is 0. You can't see that. And the x value from that ordered pair is 4. So in place of y, I'm putting 0. Instead of writing m, I can write 2. Instead of this bubble in place of x, I can write 4. So we have 0 equals 2 times 4 plus b. Now we're ready to solve the equation. Well, 2 times 4 is 8. Drop down the plus b, and also drop down the 0. Now to isolate this term, we need to get rid of the constant 8. This is positive 8, so to undo it, we minus 8. On the left, 0 minus 8 is negative 8. And on the right, the 8's make a 0 pair, and we're left with just b. Well, now we know what b is, and we know what m is, which means we can rewrite the equation y equals mx plus b. So we'll have y equals, instead of m, we can write 2x, and then instead of plus b, we will write minus 8. Looking at the example to the right of that, I'm going to list my ordered pairs down below the table. Your ordered pairs are side by side because x and y are side by side. So your ordered pairs are negative 2, negative 2, 0, negative 1, and 2, 0. First, we want to find the slope. To find the slope, we need y2, y1, x2, and x1. So we're going to label 2 ordered pairs. And again, if you have ordered pairs with zeros, I highly recommend using those. So we'll use these 2 ordered pairs. I will call this x1 and y1, and then this will be x2 and y2. Remember, x always is the first number, and y is the second in the ordered pair. Now I can fill in the slope formula. This bubble's in place of y2. y2 is 0. This bubble's in place of y1. y1 is negative 1. This bubble's in place of x2. x2 is 2. This bubble's in place of x1. x1 is 0. And that means that m is 0 minus negative 1, which is 1, over 2 minus 0, which is 2. So now we know the slope is 1/2, which means we can start solving the equation y equals mx plus b. Our eventual goal is to solve this for b. I'm going to put bubbles everywhere I see the letters. This bubble is in place of y. I need to pick an ordered pair. I would recommend picking an ordered pair with 0. Here's an ordered pair that has 0, so I'll go ahead and pick that. I should also label this. This is an x value, and this is a y value. This bubble is in place of y. Y is negative 1. This bubble is in place of m. We solved m and got 1/2. This bubble is in place of x, and x is 0. And then I have plus b. Well, 1/2 times 0 is 0. Drop down everything else. Negative 1 and plus b. Now I have negative 1 equals 0 plus b. Well, 0 plus b is the same thing as b. So now we know m is 1/2 and b is negative 1. We can write the equation y equals mx plus b. So m is 1/2, x plus b, so I'll put a minus 1. Alright, next we will look at the middle row. Remember, our goal is to write y equals mx plus b. First, we have to find the slope. Before I can find the slope, I need to pick two ordered pairs. So let's find out what our ordered pairs are. Our ordered pairs are side by side. So I've got -2, 3, 0, 5, and 2, -13. Okay. My slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm rewriting that with bubbles in places of all of those variables. And now I'm going to label two ordered pairs, and I see that this ordered pair has a 0, so I'm definitely going to make sure to use it. And then 2 and 3 are easier for me to work with than 2 and 13, so I'm going to pick that one as well. Now I'll call this x1, y1, and x2, y2. This bubble's in place of y2. y2 is 5. This bubble's in place of y1. y1 is 3. This bubble's in place of x2. x2 is 0. This bubble's in place of x1. x1 is -2. The numerator says 5 minus 3, and 5 minus 3 is 2. The denominator is 0 minus -2, which is 2. And 2 over 2 is the same as 1. Now we're ready to solve for b, which means I'm going to rewrite the equation y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to put bubbles everywhere I see a letter. This last bubble has a b in it, because that's what we're solving for. I need to pick an ordered pair to plug into this equation, and I see an ordered pair that has a 0, so I'm going to pick that ordered pair. And I'm going to label it. This is the x value, and this is the y value. This first bubble is in place of y, and y is 5. The next bubble is in place of m, and we said m was 1. The next bubble is in place of x. X is 0. 1 times 0 is 0. We're going to drop down everything else. So we'll drop down the 5 from the left and plus b from the right. Now my equation is 5 equals 0 plus b. But I know that 0 plus b is b. So I have 5 equals b. Now we know m. And we know b, so we can write the equation y equals 1x plus 5. Most of you are probably going to write this because you like seeing the 1 there. However, it's the exact same equation if we took the 1 away, because there's still an x in the equation. This is the more efficient way to write it. This is how I'm expecting you to write it on your papers, and hoping that you write it on your papers. If you are typing your answers in on Schoology, if you don't type it in like this, it will be counted wrong. I want you guys to get used to seeing it this way, because on a multiple choice test, you won't see the 1 in front of that. You'll see it just like this. And it's just a more efficient way to communicate your mathematical ideas, because then you have less numbers floating around, so there's less things to get wrong. Looking at the next example. First, I will remind myself that my goal is to write y equals mx plus b, replacing m and b with numbers. Before I can do that, I need to find the slope, and that's my first step. And before I can find the slope, I need to pick two ordered pairs. So I'll write my ordered pairs from the table. In this table, the ordered pairs are side by side. So we have 4, 8. We have 5, 13, and we have 6, 18. I'm just going to pick the first two ordered pairs. I'm not a fan of really any of those numbers, so we're just going to go with the first two. I'll call this x1 and y1, which means next is x2 and y2. Remember, the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'll put bubbles everywhere I see letters. This first bubble is in place of y2, and y2 is 13. The next bubble is in place of y1, and y1 is 8. Next bubble is in place of x2. x2 is 5. Last bubble here is in place of x1. x1 is 4. Now I can do the subtraction. 13 minus 8 in the numerator leaves us with 5. The denominator is 5 minus 4, which is 1. 5 over 1 is the same thing as 5. Now we're ready to solve the equation y equals mx plus b, plugging in y, m, and x. Okay. I'm going to have to pick an ordered pair, and I'm going to use 4 and 8 because out of the numbers I see, those are both single digits, so those are usually easier for us to work with. I'm also going to label them. 4 is an x value, and 8 is a y value. So now when I plug in my numbers, this bubble is in place of y, and y is 8. This bubble is in place of m, and we found that m was 5. This bubble is in place of x, and x is 4. And then b is just going to remain that letter because we're trying to solve for it. We can multiply 5 times 4, so we'll have 20, drop down everything else. And now this is the equation we're dealing with. We want b isolated, so we're going to get rid of the constant on that side, 20. This is a positive 20, so we will minus 20 from both sides. On the left, 8 minus 20 is negative 12. On the right, 20 minus 20 is a 0 pair, and we're left with just b. Now we know that b is negative 12. Since we know m and we know b, we're ready to write the linear equation, which is y equals 5x minus 12. And then this is the last example on this page. Remember, our goal is to write y equals mx plus b, replacing m and b with numbers. Before we can do that, we need to find the slope and the y-intercept. The slope is going to be found using the slope formula, and before I can do that, I need some ordered pairs. Reading ordered pairs from this table, x and y are up and down from each other. So these are the ordered pairs we can write. That is -2, -1, -1, 1, and 0, 3. Now I'm ready to start using the slope formula after I label 2 of these. Now I'm going to definitely pick this ordered pair because it has a 0. Before I can use the slope formula, I need a second ordered pair. And I'm going to pick this one because they're both 1s. Now I'll label that x1 and y1, and that's x2, y2. So when I find my slope formula, that's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Replace all of the letters with bubbles. This bubble is in place of y2, and y2 is 3. This bubble is in place of y1, and y1 is 1. This bubble is in place of x2, and x2 is 0. This bubble is in place of x1, x1 is -1. The numerator has 3 minus 1, which is 2, and the denominator is 0 minus negative 1, which is 1, and 2 over 1 is the same as 2. So we have found the slope. Now we're ready to find the y-intercept, almost. I know we're going to have to use this equation, and we're going to need a bubble everywhere we see a letter, and the last bubble gets to stay a B, since that's what we're solving for. Before I can fill in these bubbles, though, we've got to pick an ordered pair. And I'm going to pick the ordered pair 0, 3, because it has a 0 in it. I'm also going to label that. 0 is an x value. 3 is the y value. So in this bubble we have y, and y is 3. The next bubble is in place of m, and m we found was 2. The next bubble is x. X is 0, and then I have plus b. On the right, we can multiply 2 times 0, and then drop everything else down. 0 plus b on the right is the same thing as b. So now I know b is equal to 3. So to write that equation down, we have y equals 2x plus 3. We only did 1 or 2 examples in class. There is a back page to this. We're not going to complete the back page because that would just be an excessively long video. Speaking of pages, the page number here for your binders is page 80. Yes, page 80. Now your homework is front and back. It's only 10 problems. I tried to give you guys as much space as possible to write. This would be page 81 for your homework. As always, if you have questions or concerns about the video, the content in the video, getting your homework in on time, send me a Schoology message, an email, or if you're an in-person student, then you have the luxury of talking to me. Yay! In any case, I will be glad to get back to you as soon as I can.